looking at me. I'm looking back.
Hi, you all. How are you? Welcome back to our channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day so far.
Welcome back to our Women Empowerment series, where we highlight and showcase different professions that women do. Today we have our guest, Ms. Valerie Holmes.
Hi. Valerie is a photographer in the Austin, Texas area, and she has been at it for quite some time. And I have seen the photographs she's taken, and they're absolutely gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. So, welcome to our channel, Valerie.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. So let's get started with your background. Let's see how you got here. So let's tell us a little bit about yourself.
Back up a little bit. I had my daughter is going to be 11 next month, and I spent a lot of money on her newborn photos. And I thought, man, I had this really nice camera at home, and I don't do much with it, and I just spent all this money on this photographer, and I only want to keep all these memories. And then I started delving into how my camera works and to use it to the most of its potential. So at the time, I had a Nikon D90, and I loved it because it did video and it took still photos, and it took really good quality photos.
Yeah.
So I was able to buy a nice 50 millimeter 1.4 lens, which I still use to this day, 11 years later. And I started just tinkering in the backyard with my muse, and I stumbled on the internet and found just basically courses that started with just baby stepping and taking my camera into chunks. So
Yeah.
They recommended that you start with ISO, which is the light of your camera, and then your next, lesson number 2 was about aperture, which is the eye of your camera, how big and how small and how much light you let in, and everything else the camera does for you. So if you are on a lower number, then it's going to blur out that background. But I always had evenly exposed practice images. And then the third lesson was shutter speed and so forth and so on. And then they had lessons of creative photography and trying to get into that.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took off from there. And then from there, Facebook took off, and I found photographers that I admire, still do, and follow, and started kind of asking questions of how did you make that work, or how did you do that edit, or wow, real fire, and then just learning about how they apply that. And people, I find if you just ask, are really willing to share.
But there are classes that you can take where they charge you for these courses.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So you can check at local colleges, or I actually, one of my classes I took, I think I paid $25, but it was a mommy and me class. So my daughter was at the church, and so on Fridays we would take our kids, come together, and the kids would play, and then the moms would come together. There was always a meeting, and it might be about potty training, but in this instance, it was about moms getting better pictures. And I thought, this is right up my alley.
Yeah.
And it was a local here in Austin, photography. Gosh, I wish I could remember her name. But she was so kind and really just gave us the basics of get down at eye level, pay attention to your background, make sure it's not too cluttered, and little tidbits that you really wouldn't consider being a mom. And after the class, she said, if anybody's interested, I'm thinking about doing a camera class. Are you interested? And I said, well, so that mommy and me class was free.
Yeah.
But the camera class she offered at a park here in Austin was $25. And I was like, all about it. And I never looked back, obviously. Yeah. And then later, there was 6 of us. She hosted a Photoshop class. And so it was beginner Photoshop tools and stuff. So, there's always, I feel like there's avenues for you, and then of course YouTube. I feel like there's a lot of
if you want to do something, you can find a way.
I just told my daughter that the other day. I was like, we were doing adding fractions, and I was like, I haven't done that since 5th grade, so we'll go on YouTube. And sure enough, we watched more than one video to make sure we were doing it the right way, and they all did it the same way. So we felt pretty confident we had the right answer.
So, talking about your life, you started off being a photographer. Did you have some other profession?
Oh, yeah, no. So I'm a registered nurse by day. I work NICU as my background. I did NICU nursing for 11 years. When COVID happened, we decided that I would stay home with the kids until we figured out going back to school or not going back to school, and taking care of COVID patients is a potential, of course, concern.
Yeah.
So for right now, I'm on a break, but I started as a registered nurse. I love nursing. I love to meet people and take care of people I miss it. I'm hoping to get back, but
Yeah.
for now, I really have enjoyed photography.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been able to shoot as many people because of
Yeah.
COVID.
COVID,
We've
yeah.
had big breaks,
Yeah.
and for a while we were on lockdown.
But do you wish that you'd started your career with photography because you're obviously very passionate about it?
I don't know. You know, I got into nursing. At the time, I was a single mom, and I needed a job that I would always have a job. And so it picked me. I say, because at the time I was like, am I a teacher or am I a nurse? And I liked nursing a little better. Of course, summers off sounds pretty nice, but I liked the flexibility of nursing. And so photography in the beginning was more of a creative outlet. You know, I crochet or I knit, and I do all those things, but it's like, it was just a hobby. It was just a way to escape. And so that's been a very big balance for me, you know, like to keep it fun. I mean, I was telling the girls doing photography lessons, if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly. I agree.
You know, but at the same time, you don't want to burn yourself out. And so I have found that, especially with COVID, that photography has been more of a creative outlet for me, honestly. Just
so what kind of equipment do you prefer?
What kind of what? Photography?
Equipment,
Oh, equipment. Currently, I use I've always been a Nikon girl. I just am familiar with it. It's what I started with.
Yeah.
And I've got a D810. It's a full frame, whereas my D90 was a crop sensor. But I've taken some beautiful photos with both.
Yeah.
And I like my 50 millimeter is probably, I would say, is my most popular. I use it. I'm most comfortable with it. I know where my sweet spot is and how far to be to get the pictures I want. And it's kind of like an old friend, right? You know it, so it's just like your left hand. You know how it works and what results you're going to get. So
but besides the camera, there would be other equipment like lighting and so on.
Well, it depends. So studio photography, you would have some. I have a giant softbox that I have, and I have a couple of standing flights that I just don't use a whole lot. But honestly, I don't really like studio photography. It just I feel very isolated and structured, whereas I feel that people are a little more themselves when we meet outside and in a park and the kids can play. I do a lot of families. I've done some newborns because the NICU background helps with that. But I feel that when you're out in a park or in a setting that people can be more themselves and it's more honest photography. And that's what I feel like as a purchaser, that's what I would want to keep to remember, right? We're trying to freeze time. And so I think that's the ultimate goal is you want that honest.
So when you want that Nikon and the lenses and all of that, let's tell our viewers how much would a minimum investment cost to start?
Okay, so my D90 11 years ago was right at probably $1,000, and then that lens that I purchased was about $600 or $700 back then. I think currently, sadly, my D90 probably goes for about $400.
Oh,
sadly, and but that lens is still up there. It's in that $400 to $600 range. Still. So minimally, you're at that mark, and then when you get into photo editing software, that is about $100 a year. Is what I pay for a membership, or you can pay, I think it's $12 a month if you're just dabbling. Students get a discount, at least you used to. So that's something to inquire about if you're interested, to check with Adobe because they were giving a discount. And honestly, I mean, a camera bag was nice. I mean, you can get fancy. I have it's called an SB600 flash. And so it can work on my camera in the hot shoe, or I can have it off camera and use it to kind of bounce light and fill the space. And that is, again, not necessary, but certainly is helpful and a sweet thing to have in your pocket.
Going on the topic of software,
yes.
What software do you currently use, and do you like it?
So I have only used Photoshop, and there's a piggyback company program that goes with it called Camera Raw. That right now I shoot my images in RAW, and what that means is it collects a little more data than say a JPEG does, and it's a lot more data. So if I blow a picture out, we were in the shade, and I had made adjustments, and then we stepped into the sun, and I didn't change it. Now my picture is very blown out and almost washed out. I've actually been able to save those images because I shot in RAW, and if I had shot in a JPEG, I wouldn't. So I use that in Camera Raw only. Dabbled a little in Lightroom, but it's not really my cup of tea. I like what I like, and timing is everything, and so I don't really utilize that. I really want to look into something called PicMonkey.
I've heard that. We use that a lot in school.
Do you really?
For computer apps and tech apps and stuff.
Nice. Do you like that?
Yes, the thing I like about some of these apps that you can get a mobile version as well. So even if you're just doing like Instagram photos at home, it's really easy to edit them on there.
Yeah, so Adobe, Photoshop also has an app for your phone, which I've done. I mean, and if you pay for your membership, you can log in and have access. So I find it's pretty cool to be able to make fancy photos on my phone. Sometimes I take some pretty cool pictures just with my phone.
And on their software, is there like certain presets that you try to gravitate towards?
You mean like actions to run?
Yeah, like things that you like always do for everything.
Oh,
you always
contrast.
You always
fair. I tend to like high contrast photos. That's just personal preference. Particularly if I'm doing a black and white photo. Editing wise, I usually will decrease my highlights and then bump up my shadows just to regain some of that detail back to my images. And I will maybe bump up the temperature to be a little warmer because again, it's why I like Nikon. They tend to shoot a little warmer. I just like golden skin tones versus those bluer, cooler ones. And that's kind of it in Camera Raw. And then I'll take that into Photoshop, and then I usually start with overall balance that the lighting looks okay, and then I'll start with skin, then I go to eyes, and then I will start adding, I call it like skin adjustments, and then I do global adjustments, like adjustments on the whole image. So if you're a lot of trees, or it's about to be fall, which is my favorite time to take family photos, and actually go in and I paint all of those leaves. Like
I saw one of your pictures.
Oranges
I was like,
and
oh my
yellows.
god, this is so vibrant. I mean, one second, let me just bring that picture.
So all of those photos, I mean, it's tonal. It's called tonal separation. So it's when you are actually painting. I mean, that's why it becomes kind of therapeutic to me.
Actually, this is one of my favorite pictures. I was looking at it,
so.
And I will of course put that on the screen. So I found these.
Wisteria.
Wisteria, so vibrant. I'm like, well, I tried to do that. It did not work.
The interesting part about that picture was that was in a neighborhood called Forest Creek here in Round Rock.
Yeah.
And it was about 2 rows in the middle of a neighborhood. So you wouldn't know, but there's actually houses completely surrounding us. So I had to Photoshop and shoot it at such an angle so that you didn't see the houses, and then, of course, add the sky, the skin, and all of that. So you get tricky and kind of creative with how you're shooting things. Definitely the biggest thing I think that now is becoming second nature, but wasn't in the beginning, is to look at the whole picture, and picking out those distractions in your background. I mean, there's something you should ask yourself, like, is this helping my picture, or is this a distraction? I mean, you could be in a cool parking lot and nobody know, right? But if you've got trash everywhere, well, I'm not saying that people should pick up all this trash, because you never know, but you can also Photoshop it out. But if it's just like a scrap of paper or something, then sure, it's worth it.
So I'm going to post a lot of these pictures that I requested Valerie to send to me to showcase her work, so that people can see what all she can do. Let us at the end of the day realize that it's not just about picking up a camera, taking a photograph, and printing it out. It's not professional photography is not about that. Professional photography is making sure those pictures look amazing forever. And that's what Valerie does.
That's true. And it's also, I think it's important that you try to keep things honest for the time that we're in, know, and the editing time. I find the more time you take on an image, most of the time, the better the picture will be, right?
Yeah.
So if I rush through, we were talking about presets, if I click a button and it just sharpens everything and it's all blanket, that is not as good of an image, and I'm not as proud of that image.
Yeah.
Whereas if I sat and maybe I've got some nice music playing in the background, or sometimes I'm listening to an audiobook, and just kind of take some time to remember that day. And if the family was really vibrant and wild and lively, then I think those pictures tend to be a little more vibrant and lively. Whereas if they were a little more subdued, then their photos tend to be a little more subdued. So I try to tune in, I should say, into their vibe more or less, and try to keep
And
that.
how long does it usually take you to edit one picture?
So that's a tricky question. So depending. So if you mean just like you have a family and they're at the park and I'm going to take their family photo, I can spend anywhere from 8 minutes to 20 minutes. Now, if you're talking about composite images, then I've spent hours on those images, and sometimes days. I walk away, I come back, and then I tweak it a little more. Or maybe I like it a little more blue, or no, I don't like the way this is going. So Photoshop has a step where you can take a picture of where you are in your editing, and then edit a little more, and then you can click back on that picture and see the change of what you've done. And so I use that a lot to say, do I like the direction this is going, or I don't? So it depends. That's a tricky question. Of course, the 8-minute pictures are my favorite because I get a little more done a little faster. And that gets tricky at holiday time because everybody wants their pictures back pretty quickly, right? They want to order their Christmas cards, or they want to have grandma's painting or framed artwork done. But I also want to give them the best quality too. So I usually tell people it's about 2 weeks to get. I mean, I always guarantee their gallery in 2 weeks, but I aim for about 10 days.
So what are the soft skills required as a photographer? Soft skills meaning, I mean, there might be ways where, of course, you have to be friendly, for example. That's a soft skill.
Yes.
But at the same time, you might want somebody to pose in a particular way, but they're not having it.
Posing. You know what? Honestly, I have learned the best thing to do with posing is I try not to give too much guidance. Because people will pose themselves how they're comfortable. And if they're not comfortable, you will see it in the picture.
What the point I was trying to make is, like, you have to very politely tell people to stand in a particular way.
Correct.
So those kind of things, what are the soft skills that are required to be for a
direction
photographer?
is definitely a tough one. Or sometimes people think they know better, and then I'll say, okay, how about we'll try this. I'll take it your way, and then we'll take it my way. And I'll show you both on the back of my camera, and I'll tell you why my way, I think, looks a little more flattering. And that usually wins people over. But usually I find people are pretty, they'll say, I really want a family picture, I really want the kids alone, I really want the kids by themselves. I mean, like that kind of, I call it an order, but what you're looking for is really good for me. So I know, like, what's the most important, particularly if people with small children, I'll say, what's the goal here? Like, because this little guy.
So sticking to an objective, of course, becomes a soft skill for you. Because
and timing, right? I try to keep it under 30 or 45 minutes. But sometimes, kids need breaks. And so I think also being, what's the word I'm looking for? Give take, like not complacent, but more or less like,
adjust or
accommodate.
Compromise.
I think that's important. If you can go in and be positive and try to, and also you have to be realistic too and say, well, Billy's not going to go for this, so we're just not going to get this picture, and that's okay too.
So as a freelancer, do you work for a particular photography company, or are you a freelancer?
No,
you're freelancing.
Yeah.
So what kind of jobs are offered to you?
Let's see. I've been contacted I did a family's photo, and the mom liked my photo so much that she worked for a penicillin company. And they reached out to me to do commercial photography, which pays very nicely if you can get into that. I have done newborn photography that has come from nursing. People have said, they see my work. So I take care of their baby in the NICU, and now their baby's going home. And so who better to take your pictures than the nurse that took care of your baby? Lifestyle photography is really exciting too. Like, it's something I wish I would get a little more into. I am a little apprehensive about that because it's control. I don't know what kind of lighting you have in your house, and so I'm kind of coming into that.
What about nature? Do you do nature photography as well?
I do, but just more for me. I mean, I don't feel like that's something that I've been approached to take, but just more like, especially COVID, we would go for our 1 walk a day and just kind of get outside. And so I did take some pictures and just honestly take that home as just practice.
And we put the pictures somewhere here or on the side to showcase
All here.
Yeah, I mean, I never know when I'm trying to when I'm editing. I'll find the best space to showcase the picture, but not cover everybody
Well,
else.
you
So I
can put
always
them all
point.
around us.
Like, and somewhere going to be here.
They'll be around.
I want the pictures to look nice, right? But
please
I don't
do.
want. Yeah, I don't want us to be hidden.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, what are the high points of your job?
Oh, I have so many. Let's see. The most important, I think, would be meeting new people. That's exciting. Finding new places to shoot. Every year, I try to branch out and add a new location or something to just push your boundaries. You get a little comfortable, I think.
Yeah.
When you hit I do still shoot at my favorite places, but sometimes I feel like it's fun to also get those creative juices going.
Yeah.
And, like, try something new.
The self-discipline must be huge here, right? Because you're not prodded by anybody, so you've got to be self-disciplined enough to do something on your own, right?
That's true. That's fair. I think so. It's not something I've really considered, but yeah, I think that's fair. What do you think?
So, like, what are your favorite places to shoot, and have you shot outside of Texas? Because I know you're local to here.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, to be fair, I have family in Louisiana, so I've also done some shoots there in New Orleans. But mostly, I just kind of stick to my backyard where I know where it's safe. I know where there's no alligators or no rattlesnakes. We've seen some of those, right?
Yeah.
We're
seeing a lot of those lately. I'm quite
shocked.
Yeah.
Me too. I don't know why.
And what are your favorite places to shoot?
Favorite places? It's tricky. Probably Champion Park and Brushy Creek Park.
Right. I've seen a photograph that you took in Sweet Berry Farm, I think, of your kids.
Yes.
With those orange pumpkins, and I think that was a gorgeous picture. Like the colors, like I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, is that Sweet Berry Farm? It doesn't look like Sweet Berry Farm. It looks so amazing.
That your favorite time to shoot in fall is fall.
Yes.
And I get that because of all the leaves and all the
Color
colors.
snap.
But besides fall, what is your favorite season? Or like your ideal season? Because winter might get a little chilly.
Too cold.
Summer might be everybody's in tanks and shorts.
Well, and we're sweating, right? We're all melting. So
Yeah.
That's not my ideal. So I think fall would probably be my favorite, just because, especially the weather starts to change and people dress up, and I like not just the weather, but also the camaraderie of fall. Like, it's about family, right? It's about coming together and being together and creating that memory for people. So I think that, and it just feels cozy, right? Like a sweater you would put on and hug, like it hugs you, like a cup of coffee. These are all things that I do. I'm going to do coffee every day, but everything else is more like wintertime. It just feels a little more snuggly, and I think that's what I try to have and capture in my images.
So if you were offered to take wedding photography, would you be open to that?
Oh, I don't know. I've always adamantly said no to that because of fear, right? If I take a family's photos and I botch it, so many things can go wrong. I had the setting too off on my camera and I didn't look, or the card is expired or broken or doesn't work, or you can't recreate, right? I mean, that's the fear. I could call a family and go, "Hey guys,"
but your photographs are so pretty. I think you should get into that.
You do?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because I know you take special amount of interest in every photograph that you are taking. Like
That's
the
true.
post production on the photographs, it speaks volumes.
Oh, thanks.
So I think a bride would be lucky to have you.
Oh, that's nice.
That was one of the things I
much.
saw from the work. I'm like, there's no wedding photography, and I was surprised.
I've always been so just terrified that I would never be able to recreate that. But I will tell you something. It was kind of a one-time thing. It was a niche that I wish I would have kind of fostered and followed. I had a friend from my book club who reached out to me and said, "Listen, it's my kid's birthday. We're having a party at my house. I don't want to take pictures. I want to be a part of the party. I want to be present. I want, I put all this
Story
effort
of
to
my life.
decorate.
Yeah.
But I do want pictures.
Yeah.
And so I want to pay you to come." And so she paid me, and I went to her house. And the only kicker was, I don't know who's a friend and who's grandpa, or who's really close to the kid, or what's important, right? So I'm just shooting everything.
Yeah.
I shot details before the party started. I shot I mostly just followed the kid around and said, like, I looked for his reactions.
Yeah.
And so when he was excited somebody showed up, I captured that. Or,
Yeah.
if he was like, hey, can you take my picture with, this is my best friend, Billy, and then I would take that picture.
Yeah.
And it ended up being, I don't know, way too many pictures. I sent her a whole slew of them and just dabbling, right? But again, like I said, I don't know what's important.
Yeah.
And she has reached out to me so many times to thank me because one of the pictures I captured was a booth worker. She was playing one of the games. It was a carnival themed party.
Yeah.
And the lady ended up having cancer and she ended up dying.
Oh my God.
And she said, I just want you to know when that picture comes up every year, it just brings me so much joy and warmth. I remember her because the lady's smiling and she had face paint on and they were all into this themed party.
Yeah.
And she's like, it just means the world to me. And that stuck with me. I mean, that's been several years. I mean, I think he was 7 and now he's like 13. So it's been several years, but it meant something.
I agree, because for her 10th birthday, we had done a Harry Potter themed party. And we spent, I think, 3 or 4 months preparing for that party. We used a fishing line to hang letters from here, and they looked like they're flying.
Yes.
And, there were candles hanging from the ceiling with the fishing line, black fishing line, so you couldn't see the.
Did you have the keys?
Yeah, keys, whatever. And we didn't take any photographs.
So you don't have anything you remember?
No, we took photographs of the kids and outside, whatever, but all that decor
all the
we did.
effort that you put into decorating.
Yeah, so I agree when somebody says like you should have a professional photographer taking photographs for a kid's birthday, you absolutely should, especially for the milestone birthdays.
Yeah.
I think we should.
I don't know. I always thought like that's such a great idea. Even my own kids, where I think I'm not present, right? I'm too busy, like, smile now, retake it,
What can people do when they're getting pictures taken by you or any photographers? What can they do to make your job easier? And what can they bring?
So most people will reach out to me and they always ask that question. The first thing I always say is, what are you planning to wear? So that's important because I always tell people avoid neon colors. They create these color casts on your skin and they make you kind of alienish. And then I try to coordinate them too. Like if you're wearing warm colors and she's wearing cool colors, then it kind of creates a clash between you. So you want to create a color palette and try to match each other. Now, it doesn't have to be all matchy. We're not all in gingham. If you want that, that's okay too. But just suggestive wise, right? Maybe everybody wears warm colors and we're all wearing black, red, and gray and some combination of that. Nice hair. Maybe I always have a spare comb like they do on picture day, So I keep one of those in my purse and then we just throw it away when you're done. Honestly, and your best smile, best attitude.
Best attitude.
I also bring snacks for the kids. I will ask parents like,
oh
hey,
wow, that's amazing.
Like goldfish, or gummies. I try to like sneak one or an M&M. Baby M&Ms are a great reward because it's just a tiniest little bit of a morsel, but it's an incentive.
Yeah.
So I do keep that in my bag. Bubbles, I bring that too for little kids. It just kind of grabs their attention.
Yeah.
I have an alien that goes around my camera. He's got a dog squeak toy inside him. And again, those babies, they will gravitate, to the squeak.
Do you do animal photography as well?
I have,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And what about props? Like she was saying animal photography, the babies kind of like some people like to put like babies in buckets and stuff.
I have done that. I actually will encourage parents to bring favorite loveys because sometimes they don't stand the test of time. We love things for so long and then it gets put in a box or it gets lost or maybe left on a bus and you think, oh, remember Rhea used to carry that bunny everywhere we went and now where did it go? And so and then you have no pictures of it. So it's so nice to have that, at least one, where you remember. I have a couple of families I've done since their babies were born and now they're 6 or 7 years old now. And so I'll say, make sure you bring the duck because we always take a picture of one every year. And the duck is getting a little
but
they don't have to display it. They just keep that for themselves. It's not in every photo, right? It's one time. Props is part. I leave that up to families. I photograph a family. Their last name is Swan. And so the last 2 years, they tried to incorporate a swan into one photo, and that's been their Christmas card for the last 2 years. So this year it was a giant pool float. I mean, big. The 3 of them fit on it. So he was giant. And so we had to kind of drag him from the parking lot, and he's in the wind and flying. And so, it's not something I usually seek out, but if they ask, I certainly try to incorporate it. Because again, in the end, it's a business, and you want people to be happy, right?
So, what are the negative aspects of your job? What do you think are the major?
Negative aspects. Give me a second on that one. I would say appeasing. Sometimes dad's not really into it. This is mom's gig, and he doesn't really want to be there, or vice versa. Dad hired me, and mom doesn't really want to take pictures. That can be tricky, or the kids are kind of melting down, and I'm trying to keep on a time schedule. I mean, usually I shoot an hour before sunset is my golden hour time.
Yeah.
And if the kiddo is just not having it, we'll take a break, and then we try again, and then he's just not. So then it becomes sticky because at the end it's also still a business, right?
Yeah.
So time is money, and you're trying to be professional, but it's also personal. So you want to be kind, and finding the balance can be tricky. It's really difficult.
So how do you take care of your safety when you're out and about? Because as a woman,
yes,
you have to be aware of your safety at all times.
True.
How do you make sure that you're safe at all times?
I always tell my husband where I'm going. I tell him who I'm meeting, their names, where we're meeting, what time. I text him when the shooting is starting, and then when it's done, I will also text him and say, "Hey, I'm in the car. I'm loading up. I'm headed home."
Yeah.
But I also walk the perimeter. So I don't know if you've been, we'll use Champion Park as an example because it's kind of it's basic. It's a basic park. So it's a big, huge field. There's water and a creek in the back.
Yeah.
There's a playground there, a couple of pavilions, but I love it because it's got a lot of background options. So a bridge with these big trees behind you, or maybe a wooden fence. It's got kind of a country feel. You can walk further in the water if you're feeling adventurous. I've done some seniors in that.
Yeah.
Just depends. But I always walk that too to make sure, I worry about snakes. So when you said safety, I was thinking safety of my clients, and making sure right now the grass is a little taller, and we've already talked about rattlesnakes are a true.
Well, I meant safety
of my safety, right?
Yeah, own safety. Because we are talking when we talk about this series as Women Empowerment series, we are trying to showcase a profession for the women to consider.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that everyone is aware of their safety at all times, and we like to ask the person how do they ensure that.
Yeah, I think that honestly, aside from just telling my husband where I am and what I'm doing, and my phone has that alarm on it. Did you know if you press your iPhone side button 5 times, it calls 911?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that. I was nervous in a movie one time and just kept clicking it because the bad guy was coming, and I was so scared. And then my phone started calling 911 in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
So I was anyway. So I guess there's those kinds of safety, but honestly,
you have an iWatch, right?
Yeah.
On this, you can set it that if you press it hard,
it'll call.
Oh,
yeah. No, I need to look into that.
Yeah.
I don't know much about this
Yeah,
thing. So.
Apple is amazing. We love Apple.
I told my husband, I'm this is just so I can find my phone. That's really all I use that chirp.
This watch is amazing. The features this watch has is amazing. But we can talk about that some other
after
time.
this. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that after, because I am definitely not using its potential.
Yeah. So, would you recommend being a photographer to other women?
I would recommend it to anybody. It's fun. It's creative. So COVID happened. We didn't really talk too much about compositing photos. So composite photos are creating these fantasy. So I can take your picture on a couch, and then cut you out and put you on top of a mountain or riding a dinosaur. Or
sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
There was one picture, and I'm going to put it somewhere here, where you have the Harry Potter themed picture, and I was very impressed with that picture.
Thanks so much.
I want to show Ria this picture so that she knows what we're talking about.
So that was actually a series. I did 3 different images of those 2 girls.
Yeah.
Wizard, they're a big Harry Potter fan. And so I created these for her. And in order to create that particular image, I asked her, so what are the girls' favorite animals? Because you have to have Patronus. And I didn't want to just make, the usual stag Patronus.
Yeah.
But we want to make, what's your favorite animal? And she's the first one was a cheetah, and I thought, sweet, I have a cheetah.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said the second one wanted a giraffe, and I thought, I guess I never really expected a giraffe to be a protector, you know, like it's just so majestic and kind of flowy and walking around, but I went with it because that's her favorite animal, and in the end, it's a business.
Then how do you like the dementor on the side? Did you have to like hand illustrate that?
No, I went and found a PNG file that was available to me and inserted it, and then I just adjusted the shadows to make it match.
It's beautifully done. The picture is
Thanks
beautifully
so
done.
much.
It's so impressive, you know.
Like,
and of course, we put the picture here somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
Also for like clothing. Like they were wearing robes. Did they come with the robes?
They did.
Edit the robes?
So I met them. This was right at the beginning of COVID, like I want to say the week after spring break. And I said, hey, I've got this idea. Would your girls be down to do these photos? And she said, yeah. And they have tons of Harry Potter stuff. So I said, what are your thoughts? Maybe I can come by. I'll take pictures outside because, you know, nobody's going into people's homes. We're staying 6 feet apart. And I said, and I know you have a ton of Harry Potter stuff. Could I photograph some of it to use in the pictures? Yeah. And she said, absolutely. Yeah. So it was a day just like today, rainy, kind of overcast, gray, perfect for me. So I take her, I go, they're standing in front of their garage door. They're thankful for me. It's a white garage door. So they're in dark robes. So I'm able to cut them out later pretty easily, right? And so I just told the girls, okay, so we're going to take a couple by yourselves. We're going to take a couple together. So the first one, you're fighting up, you know, your Patronus is casted. And so we had to talk about, like, don't use this arm because the camera's here. It's going to block your face. You want to use the other arm. Yeah. And, okay, and we're going to, serious faces. You're not happy. You're battling, right? And so just coaching that way. Yeah. Or, okay, this time we're in a library and you're, you know, whatever, casting a spell.
So those of you who are Harry Potter fans, especially the Austin area, please call Valerie. Though that picture, and I will put it again here, is phenomenal. It looks so real. It's like, oh my god, I was
that
bowled
took
over.
me some time, I will say. I spent, that was one that I kept coming back to of, do I want it warmer or do I want it cooler? Because nighttime is a little cooler, right? But I also like skin
Harry Potter is so timeless, you know. Kids, I mean, I would have loved to have that picture for Ria's 10th birthday. She was like, oh my, I mean, and I'm thinking, oh my god, why did I lose that? That time never comes back.
It doesn't. That is the one thing that I have learned myself is they're only a little while. Yeah. You know, and then they grow up. So that's why I take a lot of pictures of my own kids.
Do you have any like final advice as we close this out? Like anything people who want to become photographers?
Okay, so if people want to become photographers, I would say it's never too late. You can always start researching, start small, and add to your bag of tricks slowly but surely. I would definitely start with camera stuff first, you know, maintaining your camera and knowing how to take properly exposed, in focus pictures in nice, even lighting. If you can take pictures at high noon, you just need to find some shade or know how to operate your camera to take properly exposed, nice, even images.
So one of my last questions is, what kind of compensation can people expect in this particular field?
So that's a tricky question because, you know, if you mean like globally, well, the sky's the limit, right? And Austin market, I feel like it's kind of tricky, honestly. I don't feel like a lot of people do hire photographers. You know, we've got these cell phones and they take pretty great pictures. Fair, they do. Yeah. And people, I feel, just don't see the investment of that, and that's unfortunate. So I mean, I feel like most people pay anywhere from $150 to $200 for 10 images about. So, and when you think about that, I mean, if it's 10 images that I took 50 and I called, you know, I called them down to 20, I show you 20, you say I like these 10 or I like these 15, you know, maybe you buy a couple extras. But I mean, and then the effort, you know, minimally it's 8 minutes per photo, right? I mean, the time, it just starts for me from the time I take those pictures.
I think what people do not realize is that photography, like we have our cameras and stuff, and I did not know this before I started this channel because I learned about editing software and stuff like that. That it's not just about picking a camera, taking a picture, and you're done.
No,
you know, this is about preserving your memories, and it might, even if you don't want to spend like thousands of dollars a year, maybe spend like you know, maybe take pictures once or twice a year and keep them, you know, and keep them forever. You know?
For me, we do. My family, of course, they're always getting photographed, and they roll their eyes or they stomp their feet, and there's a lot of bribery at my house. But we've agreed that it's blue bonnets in the spring
Yeah.
and then Christmas cards in the fall, right? And then on their birthday, my kids' birthdays are about a week apart. So we do like a shoot of like, this is what you look like when you were 5, or this is what you look like when you're 11. And so, and I try to keep that one pretty short and sweet, right? And fun. Like, what do you normally wear? It's not a dress up, very formal. It's just play clothes and what are you into? And we try to capture that.
Yeah.
But I try to like keep those two memories because, like you said, I mean, when they go off to college, that's what I'm gonna hold on to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Those images. So.
Exactly.
Any other questions for me?
I think that's it. Yeah.
I think, we talked about most of the things.
So much.
And we appreciate you coming here and talking to us.
This has been so fun.
No, I really wanted to showcase photography because that is one thing I feel is really underestimated today.
Yeah.
You know?
It's definitely, I feel like it's undervalued.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with you.
Like, I don't feel like people, and it's by the time you realize it's too late.
Yeah.
And you can't go back. Yeah. I wish we could though.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Anyway, thank you very much for coming here
Thank
today.
you guys so much.
Thank you for watching our video and spending time with us. I hope this video was informational for you and you learned some things about photography and you dabble in photography and you learn about it. And hope to see you soon again. Thank you very much and bye.
Bye.
Bye.